Start again.
Oh, good.
We'll, we'll
Sorry,
carry on
Sheila.
where we were. So I met Sarah last year in May here in Albear, which is where I live in Spain, on a retreat, and she talked to me about, I think maybe one day I'd like to do a retreat here. Anyway, fast forward, I ended up doing um, a course with Sarah last year called Fun Money. I just love that idea, that title, basically Fun Money, just really appealed to me. So we've had some connections since then, and we've been in conversation. And Sarah's been very generous with her time with me. We've had some really lovely coaching conversations about business, and yeah, and then she popped up earlier this year and said, "You know what? I really want to do an Albert retreat, a retreat in Albert." So here we are. We're doing that the 12th to the 14th of May. And so this webinar is a very tiny taster of what will be happening in May in person. So if it's okay with you, Sarah, I hand over the mic to you.
Thank you so much, Sheila. I am absolutely thrilled to be doing this today, and thank you for everyone that has joined us live. I've got a big list of people wanting the replay. The time didn't suit lots of people, but that's all good. We are all good. So if you have any comments or questions as we go through, please pop them in the chat box, and we'll have a bit of time at the end for those. I am just getting my notes here as well so that I stay somewhat on track, which is kind of useful. So as I said, you're very welcome, and thank you, Sheila, for the introduction. Yeah, it's I when I went to the retreat in Spain last year, I had been I was thinking about retreats that I'd run in the past, and because it had been not 2019 since the last one that I ran, and it was I ran a retreat in Portugal for 5 years in a row called the Healthy Wealthy Goddess Retreat. And so, but that was like many years ago, and I thought where am I at the moment? So the word spacious abundance came to me. So, because it just feels very fitting for where I'm at. And and that's why I want to do this webinar with a similar title so that I could just really share some things around business with you. Um, and so this webinar is called Spacious. You're simply abundant business: how to have what you want without overwhelm. And I'm just going to speak for a minute first about business and about what business is about. And there's really only two main functions of a business and of what's really important with a business, and that's creating clients and serving your clients, really. And then there's all the other stuff that can be so consuming for us, particularly as women and women who are in midlife, because we tend to have lots of other things going on in our lives as well. And it's so many women I speak to are really craving more spaciousness in their life so they can enjoy their life more. But they are often really overwhelmed in their business, doing all of the activities to get clients or to make money. And as Sheila mentioned, the program I've run many times over, it's called Fun Money. And something I'm going to be sharing with you today is something that is, I've put a fun money slant on the way that I've been doing my marketing and teaching it for the last 10 years or so. So I'll share that with you in a little while, because I think that is really pivotal to making things as simple and as abundant as possible. So many people spend so much of their time trying to get more leads. They think if they just get more leads or get in front of more people or grow their audience more, that's going to really help with creating more money, creating more clients, and having more abundance. And the thing with that is that it's actually 7 times more effort to create a new client than it is to actually resell to the people that are already paid you money at some stage. And that's something that so many miss. And just that small little thing can be like it's sort of such a game changer for people in their audience. So my first thing I would just want to like just ask you to reflect on is, where are you? I don't really like the term leaving money on the table, but that's in essence what's going on. And if it could be really, really simple, how how could that actually be leveraged for you? Um, so the the thing is, you have people in your audience, and most people don't need more leads and to get in front of more people, but they spend so much effort on that and very often end up getting exhausted on different social media platforms and feeling outperformed by all the big shiny stars that are on there, that they end up retreating and contracting and then nearly want to give up. So it's and when you're going through particular times and phases in your life, do we all have different seasons that we're in all the time? It can be quite challenging. I mean, last year, for example, was the year after my mum died in Australia. I live in Ireland. I'm married an Irishman a very long time ago, and here we are. And and I did not feel like marketing at all. It was beyond not feeling like it. It was just like I couldn't a lot of the time. I went through a similar stage several years beforehand in a sort of postmenopausal kind of shutdown. At that time, I was actually diagnosed with complex PTSD. And I won't go into that story. I got the help that I needed, but showing up and marketing was the last thing I had the capacity for at the time. So I've been through these phases, and I think all women go through these times. A lot of women, it's in perimenopause where they just they just can't. Either it can re-traumatize them, or they just go through certain life events that just make it really difficult for them. And the simpler you can keep things, the better. But the things that have maintained me through those periods of really not having the capacity for marketing online has been my existing client base, and it has been just re-signing the clients that I was already working with. And that was fine. So, but if somebody doesn't have that existing client base, well, then they can get into it can be really, really challenging around those times. So that's why I want to share with you today a way of actually creating that in your business, creating that constant, that flow in your business of, yes, some new people, some fresh eyes on what you're doing, but also of really harnessing what's already there for you, because everybody already has a lot of connections and a lot of people in their world that maybe they are just not even letting them know that they're available for whatever it is that they do. So the before I get to that kind of marketing piece that I now call Fun Money Hour, I'll share that with you in a while. But before that, I want to share with you something that I call the joy of detachment. It's it's an art and a science of being detached from the results, being detached from money, because this is imperative to really allowing the flow to happen. It's like having closed fists and holding on really tight. So it's like, maybe you've met somebody, maybe you've had a call with someone and they said like, oh yeah, that sounds really good. Send me on the details. I think this sounds like the right thing for me. And then you are for days or maybe even weeks afterwards checking checking the emails, checking, maybe you sent them a link as well to pay, and you're checking your Stripe account or your PayPal account or your bank account or whatever, and you're just like checking, keep looking and keep looking. It's like you've got these closed fists and you're holding on really, really tight to the expectation of that person going ahead and paying you the money. And it's really effortful doing that. It takes so much energy to do that, just like it takes so much energy to be constantly scrolling on social media, or like comparing yourself to other people, or to be looking at what other people are doing, or having thoughts around being an imposter or not being ready, or your inner critic just kind of takes over. It's all so much energy. And the the um, and really, when you can loosen that grip, when you can have the art and the science and the joy of actually detaching from that, of really loosening the grip, it's there's so much peace with that. And that comes from being, being a great custodian of what's going on in your own mind, because we have constant thoughts going on the whole time. It's what our brains do. We're meant to think. We're thinking beings, but we make meaning of those thoughts. We can so easily be very attached to the kind of thoughts we're having, and we can believe them. They can make up all sorts of stories and cause all sorts of problems for us in our own minds. And loosening the grip on those as well, and being detached. So, like, for an example, somebody said to me, I think it was about November last year, we had a call. She was going to go ahead with a VIP day. I've done 97 VIP days in the last 10 or 11 or 12 years, last decade or so. I was a little bit of attached to getting to 100. I thought, I'll get to 100. And I was like, yes, number 98, yes, here we go. And sent the invoice and everything. And about 3 days later, she sent me an email and said, oh, she's decided not to go ahead. She told me all her reasons and everything. And yes, I had things I wanted, that I desired to spend that money on. I had a tax bill coming. I had all sorts of things that I wanted that money for. Um, but I looked at that email, and my thought, probably 5, 10 years ago, would have been very different. It would have been, oh my God, I'm sure I would have nearly spent the money before it came in. And my thought when I saw that email in November was, oh well. And I just replied to her and thanks for letting me know. And that was it. And I carried on with my day. And it's just like the art of detachment from making it mean anything. And this frees up so much space in your brain around not diving into the thinking about what should happen with money and what should happen with clients. So if anyone has any thoughts on that, please share them with us in the chat box. I'd love to see. Like, there's other things as well. Like, I banned the word ghosted in my world. Like, that word wasn't around before a few years ago. But the word ghosted is so loaded for people. People will say, like, oh, she said she was going to go ahead and she's ghosted me, as if somebody has actually done something to you. And I don't really believe in that. Like, people have got busy lives. They're often just lifing their lives. And yeah, they may intentionally, but like, there's so much meaning being made from other people's activities or lack of activity. And when you can just be way more neutral around it, way more neutral and far less just diving into living in the thoughts. Often so it's like the ticker tape of if you're watching the news. I very rarely watch the news. But my husband watches it. So sometimes I'll walk into the living room and the news will be on, and there'll be the ticker tape going along the bottom of Sky News or whatever he's watching. Um, and it's like four or so really bad stories that are just on repeat. And I'm like, you can stand there and just keep watching them and keep being pulled into the bad news, or you can just walk out of the room, or you can turn it off, or you can just walk on by, just like clouds in the sky, letting them drift on by. And it's such a relief not to get too involved in the thinking that's actually going on. What a lot of people do, and it's the way I was trained as a coach many years ago, was to try and change the thoughts and try and flip them around and reframe them and change them. And like, particularly if there's a limiting belief attached to that thinking of, and just really see it in a different way and find all the evidence that that thought is wrong and find the more positive thought and flip it around and everything. But to our minds, very often it's a bit like sticking a sticky note up on a whiteboard. It's just like it'll just float on off after a few days. It won't stay there because it's just like our brain doesn't really believe it. And when we just allow our brains just to do the thinking and not to dive into it and not to give it all the all the all the attention it's craving, and just let it be like the ticker tape, just go on by, just walk away from it. And it's otherwise we're trying to like hold back the tide, and it's so hard. It's so hard to do that. It's impossible. Because our brains will have these thoughts, and it's like, yeah, you can have the thoughts and you can let them go. You don't have to go into it. And I see this as what is so creates so much effort and so much harm in so many women with their business. And you don't have to. You don't have to. You can really just, even just sometimes thinking about letting go of the grip, letting go of it, of that attachment. And but it was a few years ago, and I had a particularly good Q1 in my business, the first quarter of the year. And I'd made I'd made a couple of 100,000 in Q1 of sales. Of sales, it wasn't cash; it was sales. And that was paid sort of over the course of the year. And I remember on one of my masterminds, on one of my calls, one of my clients said, like, "What did Jim, my husband, what did he think of that? What did he say about like that much money of sales in your business?" And I said, "Nothing. I didn't. I don't discuss how much money made." She said, "Weren't you dying to tell him? Weren't you dying to tell him, like, I've made this much money?" I'm, no. And I also don't tell him when I don't have such a great month or year in my business. It's like, it's my business's money. It's and my thinking around it is neutral. And yes, of course, I celebrate when things are good, but I don't go too high. I've got like, it used to be such a roller coaster a long time ago. It used to be this roller coaster of emotions of like good months, not so good months, better months, and that's exhausting as well. Now, who wants to live on a roller coaster? Like, maybe it's fun once a year or once every couple of years or something, not anymore. Postmenopausal me could not go on a roller coaster. But like, no, I just prefer things to be a lot calmer and a lot more grounded, and there's a lot more ease there to getting off the roller coaster. So when things are good, don't go too high. When things are bad, don't go too low. I just stay neutral. And it's like, I was sharing recently with some clients of just like staying here and not going, when the number in your bank account goes down, you don't have to go down there and meet it with a really low mood. You can stay where you are and allow your money to come back up. It will. It will. Businesses fluctuate. Businesses fluctuate. So the more you let go of that grip of, and more that you can really lean into being detached from the expectations, from what you need and demand your business to give you, the more easeful that ride will be. And the more, yeah, like I said, the more neutral you can stay. And getting very good at just making connections. Like Sheila shared earlier about like how when I was in Spain last year, and just making that connection and connecting and having a meal, sharing a meal together, and being in the space together, and then connecting afterwards, um, and yes, Sheila has lent on some of my things, and I'm Elaine. She's facilitating the retreat for me in this webinar today, and that is where abundance comes from in a very simple way. So the and just before I get into the more sort of marketing based piece of this, I want to say, like, I do receive sales and clients into my business that feels like magic, feels like manifesting. Like, manifesting is just another name for a word for creation. And yeah, we get to create clients in our businesses. And that's wonderful. But the with any manifestation or anything, it always starts with figuring out, what do you want? What is it that you actually want? And I find that's the biggest sticking point for so many, of like, what do I actually want? Um, and then it's about, when you have that, of then getting into, like, allowing the path to reveal itself to you, but also getting into inspired action around it. I used to run a call every Monday in my groups called Inspired Action for years, because it was just like everyone's waiting there for me to inspire them into action for the week, because like, most women do not enjoy doing marketing, and they're just like, no, inspire us to get moving. And it's like, it's it definitely makes it more fun when you're feeling inspired, but you do not have to feel inspired to get action. And it's like what I said before about having low periods in my business, that in my life, that was reflecting into my business, that you can't be waiting for the inspiration, because sometimes it's fine if it's the odd time. If it's the odd time you're not feeling like taking any action, but if it goes on for weeks or months, well, then that can have a really big impact on your business. So um, it's about knowing ways that you can get into action and not waiting to be in the mood, because sometimes we won't be in the mood, and that's okay. And when you do get into that action, inspired or otherwise, the universe will meet you halfway. Like, you start moving and the universe will start co-conspiring, or whether you call it universal source or whatever you got, whatever you want to call it, will meet you along the way. And um, and that's wonderful. But it's just like having the whole thing kind of flowing together really helps. So I want to share with you this strategy, because being being able to detach from the outcome, being able to detach from what you really want and what you really need, um, is, as I said, it's like an art and a science. And this is the science bit, is like having the strategy in place, because when you have the strategy in place, and when you're not spending so much time trying to figure out what you should be doing, and you actually know what to do, it makes the whole thing just works so much better. So I used to have a name for this, which was very boring. It was called DNNs, Daily Non-Negotiables, that I've been doing and teaching in my business for many, many years. Daily non-negotiables. So we're set up around spending time each day, the first 30 to 60 minutes of the day, doing activities that would get things moving in a business. And like marketing and sales activities. Because it's really funny, because most offline businesses, or if you're looking at like professional services or corporations and big companies, have marketing and sales teams, because they know that they wouldn't have a business without them. And it's funny that, like, so many women who are running a business don't want to do any marketing or sales, and they don't have anybody else doing it for them, and they wonder why why things are eluding them a little bit. You don't need to be like crazy all over social media all the time for it to happen. Like, I started my business in the 1990s, which was 19, it was actually 1990. So what's that, 36 years ago? I was a first year naturopath. I was already a trained nurse. I've been working as a nurse for many years, and I knew that I wanted to do something different. I wanted my own business. I always knew I wanted my own business. So I was 25. I was studying all the things, nutrition and homeopathy and herbal medicine and massage, all the things. And we were living in Fremantle in Western Australia. I'm from Perth. And I was just walking down the street one day, and I just got this nudge. I just felt this nudge uh, to look across the road. And I looked across, and there was this building there, and it's still there now. I found it when I was back there last time, called the meeting rooms. I thought, what's that place now? And I crossed the road. I went and looked and saw these flyers in the window of courses and things they had on there. It was a community centre. And I just walked in there and I found someone who kind of looked like they knew what they were doing. And I just said, oh, I'm studying naturopathy and I'd love to come and run a course here. Can I do that? And they said, of course. What would you like to teach? And I said, they said, we don't pay anyone to come here. It's voluntary. I said, that's fine. I was a first year student. And I said, well-being. Can I teach like 6 steps to well-being? They said, perfect. And we sat down and we put dates in the diary, and off I went. And then when I was a when I was a when I was trained, actually qualified, 4 years later, I started doing lots of other courses and things, and I just had this. I was known for having this knack of being able to market, even though I didn't know what the word marketing was in those days. I don't think I'd ever heard the word marketing. But whenever I was setting up a clinic, and I'd done it doing like massage and different things. I did allergy testing and everything all the way through college. So I always had clients. From that first year, I had clients all the way through. And then we moved to Ireland and I set up in Ireland. Then we moved back to Australia and I set up back in Australia. And I was always fully booked within a couple of months. And people used to say to look at me and go, like, I'd work in these practices with a load of therapists, nutritionists, all the different people. And they just look at me and go, like, how come you've got so many clients? We don't get clients as easily as you do. I don't know. But it was because, and I realized pretty quickly that whenever I didn't have a client, I'd have my fairly strict clinic hours. And when I finished my naturopathy 4 year course, I was pregnant with my first child right at the end. And I had very limited hours to work. So my work hours, I fronted up to the clinic, even if I didn't have clients. And I would speak to the other people working in the building. I would call local GP services, ask could I put up flyers, business cards were everywhere in those days. I'd talk to people about what they did. They'd ask me what I did. I'd ring local newspapers and ask could I write an article, and I'll find a topic that would be interesting. And I just kind of went for it. And I didn't go, like, when I had that time, my clinic hours, I spent it marketing, even though I didn't know what marketing was. So it was really fascinating to watch the other people over the years that really struggled to get any clients. And because if they didn't have clients booked in, they wouldn't come in. They didn't come in. They'd stay at home and do home things or go meet someone for coffee or something. And it's like, your business deserves you. Your business deserves the attention. Your clients that you haven't got yet deserve the help that you can help them with. And for me, I always saw it that way. I always saw it as like, people need my help. People need, like, I'm sure there's more people I can help. And I have a business. I'm a business owner. So, my business deserves some attention. So that's why I created originally the DNNs, the daily non-negotiables, that are now called the Fun Money Hour. Fun Money Hour is what I'm calling it now. And it feels way more fun. Feels way more fun to me to call it that rather than daily non-negotiables, because that sounds a bit harsh, sounds a bit masculine, doesn't it? So Fun Money Hour, it does depend on what your goals are, because this comes down to a really important thing, and that's your business model. So if you have a business model where you want one new one-on-one client a month, let's say you've got a 6-month package that's 5K, and you want one new one-on-one client a month, what's the easiest way for that? For me, when I took my business from single sessions to a 3-month package. My 3-month package was 2,500, about 12 or maybe even 15 years. It was a long time ago. And I set the intention then to get one new client a week for the rest of the year. And I decided like I'd need to speak to 3 people a week to get one new client a week. And I did that. I did it for 30 weeks in a row. I signed a client at 2,500. So I tripled my income, and with working with like half the client facing hours I'd been working before that. And it was just knowing that my only job was to do whatever it took to speak to 3 people a week. And and I wasn't working purely as a business coach in those days. I was still working in my health practice. I had a lot of fertility clients, hormone clients. I had people with general health problems. I had life coaching clients, and I had business clients. Like I had all the different clients. So when anybody says like you have to niche, I'm like, maybe. But I just knew I could help people, and I just got people in conversations, asked them what they were stuck with, asked them what they'd already tried, looked at where they wanted to get to, and outlined a plan and asked them, did they want help with that? Like simple. So that if you want one new client a month, well then how many people do you need to speak to? I'd say like aim to 5, like 5 people. You want to speak to at least 1, 2 people a week to get that new client each month at a high ticket price. It's very different to if you want to grow like a €30 a month membership site and you want hundreds or thousands of members. That's a very different model. And that requires a lot more, a much, much bigger audience, and a lot more marketing and a lot more sales activities to convert them, because it's not necessarily easier to sell at lower prices. I always used to say like it was more effort to sell something at $47 than it was to sell something at $4,000. And it's not about like how much can you sell at or what price can you sell at. It's more just like that low ticket selling takes a lot more eyeballs on what you're doing. So you can have a very simple and a very abundant business without having to grow a big audience. And you've probably got enough people already in your world to actually fill that for the rest of the year, just like I did. And it's about doing the activities then. So, and what way have you had success in the past, and doing more of that? So I'll share with you what I generally do, but just know that it's very adaptable to what results you want and what your business model is like. So you just need to keep that in mind and work out what's the right path for you. But with most people, they're doing so little of these activities that it's anything that they do will be a real bonus to moving people forward, because it's normally just a case of letting more people know what you do and how you can help. So what I generally do, I usually start with a few minutes first before I sit down in front of my computer or even sit on my phone, is to do about 3 minutes of like somatic movement or something like that. Like I might do it out on the grass if it's a sunny morning, or I might do a couple of minutes of breath work or something like that. I might put on one song and dance around for 3 minutes or so. And just like, I don't always do it, and it's not essential at all. But sometimes if you're feeling very sort of a bit blocked, a bit stuck, a bit something, it really can help to get things moving. The one thing you don't want to do is to have spent an hour scrolling on Facebook or Instagram. That's never conducive. If you've done that, put the phone down and do something else for a few minutes first, just to clear the energy. So just whatever it takes. Sometimes I might just pick up a crystal and hold it and take a few breaths for a minute, or like it depends. Sometimes I'll pull a card from one of my decks. It really, like, what are you in the mood for? I'm somebody that doesn't like doing things exactly the same all the time. So I'll just check in with myself. What do I, and sometimes like, no, ready to get to work. And sometimes it'll be like, need something to, just need something to ease myself into it. I love journaling, but I know I can just spend too much time journaling. And then it's like, oh, I've got a client now. And then the activities don't get done, which are the most important things you can do in the day. So the earlier you can do it, the better. Know what your time is in the day. When do you have time and space, or where do you need to create it? Where you are a where your brain is working the best, where your energy is flowing the best. A lot of people I know, for me, it's morning. It's first thing before I get into my day. And I used to see clients early in the morning uh, until early afternoon, but a couple of years ago I just pushed that back a bit because I will always have energy for my clients. I'll always have energy for my group calls. I'll always have energy for client delivery. I think most people are very similar. Like you turn up in front of a client, even if you weren't feeling really alive and kicking, you like you come to life when you have your clients. So the earlier in the day is you the better. Some people it's like, I'm an evening person, I come to life at like 8 o'clock at night, so they do their hour then because that's the time they're really on. So it doesn't matter, just as long as you've got time that you're going to go like, yes, this is my hour, this is my fun money hour. And like I said, might start with a few minutes of somatic things, and then it's time. The first thing you need to do is, and I've changed this over the years. I used to say to do this last, but now I say like do this first. Is to share something. Share some of your thoughts. Share some of like there's all sorts of stuff I have on like what kind of content you can share, but like it doesn't really matter that much. Of think like, what are you selling right now? What is you, and if it is like, what does your business model look like? So if it is, if you do have, if your process is to get people onto a call and to make offers from there, well then, you know, it's content about, what is that call about? What's your work about? And talking about that and making an invitation from there. It could be some kind of thought leadership post or something, that some insights that you've had. I love sharing insights of like, this came to me, or I got this nudge to share this today, or um, I took a photo, I actually took it last week, but there was a very similar sunrise this morning, of sunrise with my office. I've got an office in the garden here, which is fabulous. And I was out, got up to feed the dog in the garden. She has her breakfast in the garden, and the sunrise in my office was absolutely amazing. And I have used that photo for so many different things. I have managed to make that mean all sorts of things. I've done all sorts of different posts around it in different places just from that one photo. So it might be something like that, that you have a photo on your phone, you're like, this is amazing. And they're like, what do I want to say about this today? So I shared in a sort of a money group, money mindset group that I'm in. I shared about like the journey to getting my home office craned over the house 5 years ago. And I spoke about how my husband wasn't very happy about it at the time, but how his thoughts are none of my business. He had different ideas, not for this, but he just thought like, what was wrong with just going and continuing to have an office in town? And even though he was very happy for me to be at home, particularly for the dog. Not that he needs me at home, but like just very handy when you've got a Labrador, a needy Labrador who had a lot of puppies for the Irish guide dog. So me being at home was actually a real bonus. But it was just like he had thoughts about it, like and but none of my business. So I've used that photo so many times, and it's and you know, just sharing something first, sharing something, you might want to then share it in a group that you're in or somewhere where you are, because here's the thing that I want to tell you is that like when people are ready to buy, they will nearly always buy from one of the 3 to 5 last people that have been present for them. And so if you are having thoughts around like, oh, I posted once, can't post every day. I saw this on LinkedIn actually the other day. Somebody said, like, whoever's teaching people to post every day needs to, go and study marketing or something like that. It was ridiculous. Some people tell people to post 3 or 4 times a day, like it doesn't matter. And it's just like people have thoughts, oh, that's wrong. So people will read something like that and go like, I can't post every day. And it's like then like only something like 5 to 6% of people will actually even see your post, and people need to see from you. And it doesn't have to be posted on social media. There's so many different ways that you can market. That's just an example. And it's like where you're attached to some kind of thought around how you should show up. It's like I saw a post the other day at somebody saying, like, somebody just emailed me 6 times in a day. That's horrific. It's just they should be reported. That shouldn't be allowed. And they showed a screenshot of the email. But it was a summit. She'd signed up to a summit that had like 3 calls a day over the week or something. Like, yes, of course, when you sign up to a summit, you're going to get a bunch of emails. And I'm just like, so what? So what? I'll just be like, yeah, just delete them if you don't want them, or unsubscribe, no big deal. But that's my thinking about it now. But other people are very attached to, like, you should not email like more than once a week or once a month or whatever. And it's just like, no, there are no rules. There are no rules. You get to do your business the way you want to do it. So it's like, where are you attached to certain thinking about, how often you could show up, or hey, whether you're annoying people or whatever. No, people are grown-ups. They get they get to decide whether they are whether they are like or don't like anything that you're sharing. And here's the thing, most people don't even notice. Like people get very attached to like how how visible they are, but really you have to be very, very visible to get seen these days. Um, so that's the first thing to do, is to get that post out. Because if you leave it till the end, which is the way I used to teach it a few years ago, you can just get distracted or get busy or have to cop on a client call or something by then. So that's the very first thing, is to put something out there. And then the next thing is to look at, like what I said earlier, around your maybe existing clients who are coming towards the end of their time working with you, or to people who have bought anything off you in the past, or maybe nearly bought off anything in the past, but particularly people who are working with you or have recently worked with you, because very often they will be very happy to continue if you actually ask them. And it's amazing how many people let people go and then get really annoyed when they see they're working with somebody else, because you're kind of, by not making an offer to them or not checking in with them, not doing like a next steps call or something with them, you are letting them just go work with someone, like making them go and find somebody else. Whereas most people are on a journey, and you can continue to take them on that journey. You just need to ask. You just need to check in with them. So having that, like yeah, when I studied sales, it was like having these very elaborate systems and everything in place. And yeah, that's okay if you've got a big group program or a membership or something like that around client retention. But for most of us, if you're working with half a dozen or a dozen clients at a time, you can absolutely just do that. Just bring it into the conversation of just like, oh, and next calls next month will be our final calls for our current working arrangement. I'd love to set up a time to talk to you about like what's next for you, if I can help you any further, or if I can point you in the right direction or whatever. Would you be up for that? Maybe. Oh, like I don't think I've ever had anybody say no. And yeah, like it's lots of my clients have been working with me for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One's in her 7th year. And she came straight from corporate with no business, and now but she grew a multiple 6-figure business. And she's like, why would I work with anyone else? why would I work with anybody else? You can help me. Not everybody. Some people are done. But some people are one and done, and they like to go and work with other people. That's fine. But those people who have worked with you in the past, like every time I offer even like a small program or something, they're like I'd say over half of them have bought repeatedly over previous years. Sometimes they bought something from me 10 or 15 years ago, and there, when they see something that I like, and fund money is a good example of that. There's several people that haven't that like worked many years ago, and they're just like, I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that. And they hop. And it's just like, people are often just waiting for an offer for what they want. So first of all, look at who are those people? Who could you reach out to? Who could you just send a voice note in the DMs or something and say, hey, you popped into my mind, wondering how you're getting on. Are you up for a quick 20-minute check-in? Love to hear where you're at and if there's anything I can help you with. And a lot of people will just say, sounds good to me. Sounds good to me, and see where they're at. And very often they will say something like, you've been on my mind. I was going to reach out to you or something. They'll say something. And it might have been a couple of years since I've been in contact with them. So we're even doing this call today. I sent a message to a few people who had inquired about the retreat a couple of months ago, and they're like, will you send me the replay? I'm busy today. I would love to see that. So just don't make up stories around that people, oh, I bet they're busy, I bet they've moved on, I bet they're working with somebody else, or, times are tough right now, nobody's got extra money or whatever. All these stories, just let those go. When you come from a place of just building relationships, it's the backbone. It's never been so important in business to lean into relationships. It's the one way to AI proof your business, is to lean into building relationships that start with people you're already connected with and reconnect with them. You don't have to offer anything to them. You can just say, thinking of you, wondering how you're getting on, and that's it. Another one is new connections. Like if you are maybe chatting with somebody in a group or somewhere online, or someone's commenting on your post or something like that, send them a connection request, a friend request, connection request, depending on what platform you're on. And when they accept, just pop them a DM and just say, thanks so much for the connection. I'm looking forward to seeing your posts. And that's it. You don't jump, you have to like jump on it. We all hate that. We all hate the cold pitching in the DMs. But it's not about that. It's just about making those connections. And then when you have something like you're doing a webinar or workshop or something, you can then say, look, I'm not sure if this is something you'd be interested in, but I'm doing this class next week on this topic. Let me know if you'd like the link. No problem if it's not what you're looking for. And that's it. You can absolutely do that. You can absolutely message people and make invitations to them. And people like to be invited. And that's when people will say yes to something. They like to be invited. They don't want to just like you post something just very neutrally on your timeline. People might see it and go like, I don't know if that's for me. I'm not sure if I'm at the right stage or something. You send them an invitation and they go, oh, it is for me. That's good. So we can think like we're doing someone harm by messaging them, but it's not harmful at all. So I've often said over the years that your next 10K or your next 3 clients is sitting right under your nose, very often in your DMs or in emails that people have replied to, or in conversations that you've had and put down. And it's just like scroll back a couple of months or several months in your DMs, or look at emails people have replied to in the past that you maybe could pick up on, and just saying, hey, you shared with me before that that this was a problem, and particularly people that have had like a sales call with you in the past and they didn't take you up on it at the time. Circle back to them and say, look, when we spoke last year. You said you were struggling with this. Just wondering how you're getting on with it. If you want, I've got some time next week. We could hop on a quick 20-minute call and I can just check with, how you're doing with it. And they're like, yeah, perfect. And it's just like there's so much abundance there. And it is actually very simple. And no one, I don't, I've met very few people, the odd person, yes, very few people that actually like doing marketing and sales activities when they first, well, not even just first, even when they're years into their businesses. And they'd rather it just disappeared and that they could just work with their clients. And I always love the concept of like following things that feel good, and leaving the rest that doesn't feel good. But there's an exception with marketing and sales activities. It's a bit like going to the gym and lifting some weights when you haven't done it for a while, or remember when I was a teenager going to my first aerobics classes and not being able to walk for 2 days afterwards. It's a bit like that. It's a bit like you have to do the hard stuff first to and move through resistance of someone not replying to you or someone saying no, and feeling the emotions that come up with it before you can get to that place of detachment and being neutral around it. And you realize I realized I had a real thing with, not with somebody saying no. That actually didn't bother me so much if I messaged somebody about a program that they'd said they were interested or something, and they said like, actually, no, that's not for me. Like, fine. It was if somebody who had shown some interest and they didn't reply. I went to a really dark place. This was a few years ago, and I realized it was an old father figure thing of being rejected by my father over something a very long time ago, and I had to like have a little word with myself and realize it had nothing to do with that person who didn't reply. Because sometimes people will come back months later and go like, "Oh, I'm ready now." It's just they got busy. So having a way every day that you're doing those outreach, that you're posting something, that you're reaching out to people. And there's a few other things that I would do during this time, but it really does depend on your business model. If you have a very referral based business, well, then it's talking to referral partners. If you have a business that does really well in the press, well, then it's maybe doing a press release. If you have a great blog or podcast or something, or maybe it's just going and recording a quick episode or writing something that is going to be put out there where people can see, and making an offer from there, or sharing something. So it really does depend on your business model and the way that you work, but spending a focused hour on your business each day, your fun money hour, is an absolute game changer. So I know we're running out of time, so I want to just share one more thing. So I'm just checking my notes here for something. I will just scroll down to the bottom. The Yes, I will be sharing a bit more about this, and just about business model flow, getting really into a flow in your business for creating so much more spacious abundance at the retreat in Spain in May. It's a small group, so there will be plenty of time to kind of like mastermind, to put the collective minds together around, what your fun money hour could look like, and what it is that is what you are really looking to achieve, what it is that you really, it's not doing action and activities for activity's sake. It's about really tapping into a flow that really works for you at whatever season of life you're at and what you desire. Because in past retreats, there've always been a couple of women that are like between businesses, or are wanting to change things a lot, or are maybe they've been working part-time in a job for many years and they want to let go of that, so they want to ramp things up in their business. They need more money, or some women are getting separated or divorced, or and they're like, need some more money now. And it's just like there's always women undergoing like some massive changes in their lives, and so they're just like using the retreat as a way of sort of grounding themselves into what they want to be doing moving forward. Sheila, I just want to call on you. So is there any questions, anything that you want to say? I'm just going to pin you for a minute.
Um, Thank you, Sarah. Sarah, I want to call you Sarah because that's a Spanish way of saying it,
You
Sarah.
can say that. I love that.
I so appreciate the reminder of, I'm smiling outwardly and inwardly as well as like, how many emails per week is acceptable? That sort of feeling. Because I have lots of thinking about how many times I can email my list, not being a nuisance and all those sorts of things. So it really bears, I think, reflection in terms of, yeah, it's who's right. You can see a post, as you say, where somebody says, every day is good, and another one that says every day is bad. It's like, what are the rules? Like we're making them up as we go along, right? Really. And it's all about our own comfort, I think. It's like, well, I don't like getting emails from people every day. So why would I say it? Um, but also one of the things that I've loved recently, Sarah, about is this reminder from you of you need to tell people you're here. Like tell people what's on offer, tell them they don't know. And I have this, yeah, I have this forgetfulness about I think I know and people in my inner circle know, but actually if you don't keep telling people because of algorithms, you think people are seeing stuff, but they're not really, you know.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. And no, I mean, a question would be, is this purely for people with businesses?
Yeah, that's a great question actually, because on every retreat I've run in the past, there have been one or two attendees who haven't had businesses, but they
Mm.
have been thinking about starting a business, or they've had one in the past. So it's not essential at all, but there will be a lot of business talk. There will be, but there will and there won't, because like how you do one thing is how you do everything. So there's a lot of around those kind of situations of you know, where am I, where am I hiding, or where am I, thinking that I'm being too much when you're not actually where you could be a whole lot more, that kind of thing. But it's just like, it's not at all essential. I know a couple that are looking at a couple of women that are looking at this year. They haven't booked on yet, but that are in between, that are taking a big gap, and they're looking at building something completely different in the future. And it's just a great pause. It's a greater retreat like this, and that's why it's called spacious abundance, because that space is everything. I mean, I've got one woman came on retreat. She would be coming. She's been to most of my retreats, I think, in the past, but she's actually away somewhere far away at the time. But when she came to my retreat in 2019, she made the decision to stop drinking alcohol at that retreat, even though we didn't speak about it at all. But she just like it's things like that like just kind of land for people, that they've been something that they've known is true for them, that they've been like hiding from or eluding. um so but for most women, they just get so much benefit from stepping away from their day-to-day life and having that space for themselves. And it's lovely to connect with other women in a beautiful place, and sunshine is always welcome. So does that answer the question, Sheila?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. Has anybody else got any questions? Um, so I will. Oh, Sheila has just dropped the link there,
Yes.
and we'll send it out with the replay. for the Spacious Abundance retreat in Albia in Spain. That's near Alicante. Beautiful part of the world. I cannot wait. So many times it's been raining here in Ireland lately. I'm just like, I want to be in Spain now. I want to be in Spain now. But we've got so far, we've got women flying from America, from the UK that are coming, and really we have space for several more, and would really welcome anybody that wants to have a chat. The early bird is available for until the end of the month. But any questions or anything, and you get my fun money program if you sign up, and that's currently selling for like $4.97, I think it is. So you get that, and you get to experience that whole program beforehand, because there's so many things that I shared in that program that I don't have the time to share today, that around the fun money activations that I've been doing, that are just really landing with the women. So there will be things from that we can work on in the retreat. So thank everybody for being here today. And Sheila, anything else before we wrap up?
Likewise. No, just to say, I have been running retreats out here since 2012, and the model that we're using, having these the big space in the afternoon, there's a 3 hour lunch break, which is very Spanish. I think that's so conducive to the spaciousness that you're talking about. So just to say that being here means you get to take advantage of the afternoons in terms of going to the beach, walking along the beach. We've got a beautiful lighthouse walk here, cafes, restaurants. It's a small town on the coast, Albert, and a beautiful resort. So, I think of it as a destination as much as a working retreat, if you like. It's
Yeah, yeah. But for the tax man, it's a working retreat. So it's
exactly.
great. Yeah, when I ran my Healthy Wealthy Goddess retreat, we'd issue the invoices for the account for their women to get to the Healthy Wealthy Business retreat. We did leave the goddess out of the title for the invoices for the accounting purposes. So yeah, it really is such a special place for that. And I would yeah, I love those long lunches, and I was the first day last time was thank you, Kathy. The first day last time, I was like the high achiever, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to have lunch, and then I'm going to have a walk to the beach, and then I'm going to sit by the pool and read my book, and I'm going to have a swim in the pool, and then I'm going to have a little rest in my room before I go back. And then the second day, there were three or four of us that somebody said, long lunch? And I'm like, yep. We just went for a lovely, we just spent hours talking at lunchtime, and that was so nice in the sunshine. That was just gorgeous. So yeah, it's really lovely to have a chance to check in with yourself about what you really, how do I want to spend this next, 3 hours. It's really, really abundant. So thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
Thank you. And anybody who has any inquiries or anything, just do let us know. Any questions or anything, just
Absolutely.
let us know. Thank you
Mhm.
so much.
Take care. Bye bye.